Would you look at this? It's a shitty video about the amazing digital circus, talking about Jax. If only there was a thematically appropriate trans femme jester I could do a co-op with. Maybe a jester of the moon. I said... Huh?
Shit, I'm sorry I'm late. I had to deal with being chased by the bell loan sharks after the last time we were here. They don't stop fucking chasing me. I still owe them debt.
It's fine, I guess. It's not like I wanted to co-op with you or anything, Baka.
Aw, the way you appropriate my culture is very cute. So, what are we covering today?
Something I'm convinced will give me some kind of disease by watching it.
So, gonorrhea-syphilis?
Sure.
Well, alright then. Time to put on the hazmat suits, I guess.
That's not a fucking hazmat suit!
Sure it is! You see, it's the idea of a hazmat suit. Ooh! Look, I know what an unamused nerd is, but not a ooh-amused nerd. Good lord, learn to fucking spell. We've barely started the video yet.
Fuck media literacy, where's your regular literacy?
Hello my lovelies, welcome to the channel where I discuss my nerdy hyperfixations or topics I genuinely wish to discuss.
As opposed to talking about topics you really hate talking about for some reason.
Holy shit! Wow, really? I never would have fucking guessed.
The Amazing Digital Circus is finally over, and ever since the release of the last episode in theaters, Jack's defenders have become even more insufferable with any criticism to his character. Insufferable as in they take it so seriously, and they have this parasocial, weird attitude of going around and telling everybody they have no empathy or sympathy for people who suffered abuse, which, again, that is parasocial and weird.
Hey, I kinda hate to tell you this, but I really don't. That's not what parasociality is, dumbass, and it wouldn't even work that way. You see, you could try to argue that the definition of parasociality would actually extend over to fictional characters. And I mean, you can try, you won't exactly win with that, and I'll tell you exactly why. See, parasociality revolves around a relationship that is one-sided towards a character. As in, somebody being, so personally invested that they believe to have some sort of personal connection to them, as if they are another person that they are speaking to. That simply wouldn't be the case with most Jax fans, given the fact that, they're a fan of his character. It's not like they're gonna claim to know him personally in real life. The closest they could really say that to is Michael Kovac, and at that point, that would actually be fucking parasocial. Relating to a character just simply off the basis that you can empathize and sympathize with them does not equal parasociality.
I think what she's trying to say is that these hypothetical Jax fans are parasocial because of their assumptions towards real people, which would be a bit more reasonable and understandable if it weren't for the fact that Renee does this exact same thing that she is criticizing later. But we'll get into that when we get into it. Just keep it in the back of your skull for now.
Personally, I'm rather indifferent to his character. I used to like Jax and was invested in any personal growth that he could have, but there really wasn't much payoff with being invested in him.
Renee says they used to like Jax in earlier episodes. Please put a pin in this, because good lord does this statement come back to bite them in the ass later.
With how the series came to a close, it seemed like Kane might be able to help those who've abstracted, so, as far as we know, Jax is not ready to come back, so he's going to stay like that for the foreseeable hypothetical future.
A few problems here. Firstly, Jax is dead! He ain't coming back!
Technically he abstracted.
Fuck up. Look, no one comes back from abstraction, fuckwit. You could say that the part where Pomni goes into Jax's mind was him coming back, but you'd be wrong, given the fact it was basically just his mind and whatever small amount of consciousness he had left that eventually faded away after Jax and Pomni hugged it out. In fact, you could even see the pocket dimension of Jax's mind start to fall apart at the seams the moment Zubul pulls Pomni out of him.
We have absolutely no reason to believe that Kane can bring back abstracted members of the circus. If he could have, he would have done so after he came back during episode 9.
I want to get your hopes up on any type of a continuation. The only new media tied to the Amazing Digital Circus that I'm aware of is the manga adaptation. And honestly, with how fans have been treating Goose, she's probably never going to touch this show ever again. So, I don't know, write your fan fictions or whatever.
Videos like this are definitely part of the reason why Gooseworks is so sick of her fandom.
Everyone all right?
Can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear you over the knives.
Before I continue any further, I would appreciate it if you would actually watch this video all the way through before leaving a comment, because a lot of people who get defensive when it comes to my videos, you do not bother completing the video and you end up calling out stuff that is debunked or proven to be in my video. But yeah, like, just to avoid that type of irritating headache, can you actually watch my video all the way through and listen?
I did, and this video gave me AIDS.
Also, bold to assume that people who levy criticism at you are not going to watch the entire video. I'm not even saying that this can't happen. I know it certainly has before with other people, but it'd be nice if you actually brought up instances of this instead of just saying there was.
Hey, Lucy?
Yeah, hun?
You might want to get checked.
What the fuck? You gave me AIDS?!
Also, something to keep in mind, this is coming from the perspective of somebody who's been in the villain fandom since I was a teenager. This kind of defensive behavior is literally nothing new to me. I've seen it so many times when it came to fangirls hyperfixating and wanting to defend their fictional villain crushes.
Oh, the irony. You'll see what I mean later. I know we keep vaguely referencing shit that'll be brought up later, but that's because so much of the shit they say in this beginning portion is contradicted later in some way.
Hell, one of the biggest DeviantArt drama that pretty much imploded the millennial elder Gen Z art commentary community before the pandemic was a fangirl not accepting criticism over her fictional hedgehog crush.
Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down? Like, I'm willing to bet that you're talking about Sonic 93, but you could also be talking about fucking Akai Dahlia. Now, mind you, in Akai's situation, she did nothing wrong, and got harassed for many fucking years by the Heather Pack. Meanwhile, Sonic 93 wasn't exactly the most innocent little uwu bean either. I mean, shit, she was kind of a few fries short of a Happy Meal, if you know what I mean. Also, I really love the underlying misogyny here of targeting fangirls and such here that you still seem to carry on even after 10 plus years later, and even after you decry said misogyny. Great job, dumbass.
Getting pissy over fangirls in the Big 26 is crazy.
You are awesome if you know what I'm talking about. This type of discourse that we're seeing around Jax is always something that's going to exist within fandom, which is why it's always important to speak up, especially nowadays where there's this moral panic when it comes to consuming fiction and liking certain fictional characters. You will be gaslit to high heavens with all sorts of mental gymnastics into believing you're a terrible person for saying this fictional character who did objectively bad things you would never condone in real life is a horrible person.
Oh yeah, that's the moral panic over fiction. Not the people who will paint people as immoral people over the fictional characters they like. You're the poor little victim of moral panic over fiction because people think it's kinda shitty when you treat them like bad people over fiction. This entire video is meant to paint people as immoral over fiction, and yet you're the victim of moral panic over fiction? Be so fucking for real.
Also, I want to make it very clear I intend to be nice when talking about this.
No, you don't, you fucking liar.
Because a lot of people who are participating in this discourse are young. They most likely have issues of never getting justice when it comes to what they've been through, and it's just something they need to work out and unpack in therapy.
See, my point was proven. So, let me get this straight. You think anyone who disagrees with you were
Abused at age 6 or molested at 12.
Seriously though, the fucking nerve of you to make an assumption like that about people you don't know. Like, Dude, that's majorly inappropriate. Also, like, therapy isn't an option for some people who don't have the money nor insurance to get it, so you can actually take that argument you just made and shove it up your fucking ass.
Here you are being, by your own fucking logic, incredibly parasocial when earlier you just criticized people for doing exactly that. And, Renee, you know what they say about assuming.
It makes an ass out of you and Ming.
Hi, I'm Ming, and I really don't appreciate what your assumptions have done to my reputation.
You made a whole guy for that?
Alrighty, so let's get this video started. Jax from the Amazing Digital Circus is a character that has always been under controversy with the fanbase since the release of the second episode, where you genuinely had fans believing his character was retconned. From the pilot, which is technically the first episode, a lot of people got the impression that he was just basically an edgier Bugs Bunny, but when it came to the second episode that had the Candy Kingdom adventure and introduced Gummy Goo, Jax had a lot more mean-spirited, way how he went about the whole thing.
Except there are tons of scenes from episode 1 that shows that Jax is incredibly mean-spirited. Like when he pushes Gangle, or pushes Gangle again, or steps on her comedy mask. Like seriously, Jax wasn't less mean in episode 1, you just huffed stupid sauce. Is this why you liked Jax in the beginning? Because you didn't understand that he was supposed to be a meanie bo beanie?
That was when fans got really upset with him, saying that he was being completely out of character and that he was retconned. Those opinions didn't stick around for long as more episodes got released, and there definitely was a shift in opinion when it comes to Jax, and he started to get a lot more supporters. As the series got closer to an end, his supporters definitely got a lot more protective over Jax. And these supporters were ready to clap back at any form of criticism of his behavior and how he treated the characters, specifically the female members of the cast.
Why are we talking about Jax like he's a fucking politician? Like, what? Also, are you gonna show proof that TADC fans, more specifically the Jax fans, are being ultra defensive of him, or what? You can't just say shit without maybe showing something that at the very least proves your point. At best you look lazy, and at worst you're strawmanning. Either or, please don't do this because it puts the validity of your points further into question.
I personally have never seen a Jax fan who denies the fact that Jax is an asshole. He is obviously an asshole. That is quite literally the point of his character. If you know something we don't, show us with evidence. It feels like you're arguing with people who don't exist.
Even stepping into blatant misogyny themselves, wanting to blame the femme-presenting characters for how Jax behaved.
Oh, so like you've been doing towards the fangirls of Jax, or just the villain characters in general? Miss me with that bullshit.
Ever since the finale episode came out, they have gotten, in droves, taken this pseudo-intellectual route, trying to say anybody who hates him or just, wants to say he's a bad person because XYZ. You have Jax defenders saying, oh, you're just doing that because he's such a complex, morally great character, you don't understand him. See, this is why I assume a lot of these people are just young and they haven't, consumed a diverse range of media to explore what a complex character is.
Holy shit, are you allergic to having self-awareness or brain cells?
Apparently, considering they keep making incredibly specific claims about these hypothetical Jax fans they haven't even proven exist. Can we see at least a singular screenshot that shows literally anyone saying anything, even close to any of this? This entire video hinges on the idea that this vague group of individuals have made these very specific claims, and you haven't proven that yet.
Also, the hypocrisy is really beginning to rear its ugly head here, and you will see more of it sprout up like an ugly fucking tumor, specifically since you yourself, Renee, have been using the exact same tactics as these fans by just brushing off whatever they might have to say by making crazy assumptions about their lives or morality.
If you need an example of a complex character to do a character study so you can better grasp what is a complex character, look at Alucard from Hellsing. Alucard is considered a very deeply complex character because beneath his arrogant and sadistic exterior, he has his own internal conflict of self-hatred, a paradoxical respect for humanity, and a deep-seated death wish.
Jax also struggles with self-hatred, dumbass. What, does this character also being suicidal all of a sudden make him uber complex? Like, I'm not saying that Alucard isn't complex. I don't know enough about Hellsing to make that judgment. However, Jax seems to share some of the traits that you're claiming make this guy oh so complex. What are you even defining complex as? To me, it seems like your definition is any immoral character I personally like. You can dislike Jax as a character and still acknowledge his complexities. Those things aren't mutually exclusive.
While Alucard does indulge and find pleasure in being a monster, at the same time, he does have regrets of throwing away his humanity out of fear and cowardice during his execution as Vlad the Impaler. He views his own centuries-long existence as an immortal monster like a tragic punishment. Alucard wants to die, but when it comes to how he should, Alucard has a strong conviction that he needs to be put down by a human. Alucard's desire to be killed by a pure human is cathartic in a way to prove his own choice to become a monster was wrong, which is why he had such an emotional breakdown when Alexander Anderson threw away his own humanity to try to defeat him. Alucard deeply regrets his choice in becoming a monster, and he seeks the ultimate release that only a mortal enemy can provide him. There's a reason why he has such high respect and loyalty for the descendants of Abraham von Helsing, the human that nearly killed him.
Okay, so I know a little bit about Helsing here, but also quite a bit about Vlad the Impaler. Wanna know something, Renee? Alucard and Vlad the fucking Impaler have killed so many fucking people that putting the total kill count together would be damn near impossible to actually measure, at least without taking a long-ass time. Like, dude, how are we giving the serial murderer a pass, but not Jax? Like, Vlad the Impaler, like the real guy, killed roughly ranging from like 2,000 at the very least to 100,000 people, give or take. And mind you, Vlad the Impaler was also someone who loved killing so much, he went in the battlefield himself to fight. He was known to have a bit of a sadistic streak already when he was a kid, since when he was in Ottoman prisons, he used to torture the fucking rats in there.
You wanna know what Jax is? A bully. He's a bully. That's it. If you find Jax's actions so disgusting and horrible, how can you turn a blind eye to a character based on a real historical figure who killed thousands? What the fuck? This example pisses me off more than it probably should.
Just to say real quick, if you have not read Hellsing or seen the more faithful anime adaptation Hellsing Ultimate, you really should. It is a very good story. And when it comes to Alucard, he's not just a badass reimagined of Bram Stoker's Dracula. He's a heavily multifaceted character with so many layers to him.
You already said this, shut the fuck up.
If you need other examples of complex characters, you have Joker from Identity 5. He is a tragic character that has become broken. Years of mockery and being mistreated, it's not a surprise that he became the faceless Moonriver Killer.
Another fucking murderer you're comparing to a guy who, at worst, is kind of manipulative. It feels like you're doing the exact fucking thing you're accusing Jax fans of, going on about how these evil characters are actually uber complex and morally gray. Again, I am not denying that these characters are complex, but if characters who murder people in cold blood can be considered complex because they have a sad backstory or mental health issues, then Jax can also be considered complex because he also has a sad backstory and mental health issues. Fuck off.
Also, again, you're comparing Jax to a guy who went on to be a killer by your own words because he got made fun of a bunch. Again, miss me with that bullshit.
I'm sorry, but I just can't fucking get over the fact that this individual unironically just described this character as broken. Like in an unironic, serious manner. I can't get over that.
The reason why Joker is considered a very deeply tragic, complex character is because when you actually explore his lore, there is tragic intersections of abuse, unrequited love, and a severe inferiority complex he was pretty much conditioned into having.
Me when my Pookie Wookie Bear doesn't like me back, so I murder everyone? Like this video if you relate.
And make sure you search this up and tell these lovely people your plans to do so. They'll help you.
However, even though the transition from tragic mistreated circus performer into a deranged hunter has the line between victim and villain rather blurry, there's no excusing his actions.
It's not blurry if he's murdering innocent people. He is a villain. Just like Jax's issues don't excuse his abusive behavior, this ugly-ass clown's issues don't excuse him murdering people. You are literally being the fangirls you complained about earlier.
Like, good lord, this isn't a fucking jigsaw puzzle made out of 9 billion pieces. This is a very simple arc that shows what happens when someone's mental health deteriorates to the point where they act on homicidal thoughts or tendencies. If they had the capacity to kill people, then there already was something wrong with them in the first place. Now, please uproot your head from your colon.
Yes, Joker has had it rough since a very young age, ever since his parents sold him to the Hullabaloo Circus because they did not want a deformed child. There's still no excusing him from eventually becoming a murderer. And don't get me wrong, Sergei absolutely deserved what happened to him, but Violetta did not deserve Joker luring her outside of the manor, cutting off her prosthesis, leaving her immobile, and left outside to die of hypothermia.
Then why the fuck did you say it was blurry then if it's that cut and dry?
Now, when it comes to Jax, he barely has 2 layers to him. He's basically BoJack Horseman if BoJack never faced the consequences of his actions.
Renee, Jax literally fucking died.
He abstracting?
Please explode. Anyway, he literally did get the consequences of his actions, you fucking tea towel. His consequence was dying. Notice how he's the only one from the main cast who died. I wonder why that could have been. Hell, if we ignore his abstraction, he gets consequences for some of his actions as early as episode 4, when Gangle had authority over him and punished him for his behavior. How much stupid sauce did you consume?
Furthermore, BoJack had far less consequences for his fuck-ups, and also, let's not forget that BoJack Horseman was or is a child predator. Are we actually fucking for real? Are we dead ass? Like, Jax is an asshole, but he's not a child predator. Fuck off.
Jax is not morally gray or so complex that his haters do not understand him. I hate to break it to you, he's the stereotype of a bully. And that's not me trying to be cute or nothing. Jax is basically the cliche you hear from a teacher when you go to them for help about a bully that's been harassing you, and the teacher tells you to be their friend because they're probably going through something that's making them want to harass you.
Yeah, I too can make Jax, or hell, any fucking villain or villain-aligned character sounds super one-note and static too if I dumb it down. Alucard, bad guy McFuckface who likes killing. Darth Vader, bad guy McFuckhead who likes to blow up planets. Or even Itachi Uchiha, bad guy McFuckmouth who likes to kill his own family. Simply boiling down Jax to him being a bully is not only just insanely reductive to his character, it's also just flatly incorrect. Also, maybe don't infantilize Jax and equate him to being some shithead kid that your teacher might try to get you to feel bad for. Because not even gonna lie, this is at best really dumb and at worst a manipulative appeal to emotion to your audience.
Again, how is Jax an irredeemable scumbag who has no complexities to him despite his issues and backstory, yet characters who murder people are so complex because they weren't hugged enough as a child? Again, I am not saying these aren't examples of complex characters. Killer characters can be complex despite their irredeemable actions. I'm just saying if we can consider these characters well-written and complex despite their backstory not excusing their psychotic behavior, Jax should also be considered well-written and complex despite his backstory not excusing his comparably lukewarm behavior.
Jax is literally the stereotype of a bully that has emotional problems and is taking it out on those around him. And his defenders are like, as my best friend put it, they're like male-centered pick-me girls that want to go to bat for him because, aw, my boo-boo bunny boy has hurt feelings.
Earlier, you called Jax fans parasocial for, allegedly, psychoanalyzing Jax haters. But here you are, psychoanalyzing Jax fans, calling people male-centered pick-me-girls over disagreeing with you about a fictional purple rabbit. Are you serious? This hypocrisy isn't helped by the fact that this whole video just feels like you're saying, my favorite characters are serial killers, but yours is a bully and that's worse. Who's really the male-centered pick-me girl here by your logic?
Way to go! With even more helpings of fuck-ass buzzword misogyny! Yay! Seriously though, I thought this type of shit died in fucking 2020 when people stopped unironically using the term Mary Sue to describe a character they didn't like because they're a woman. Like, dude, the fact that you were not even that long ago digging at the misogyny present in fandom cultures in the days of yore, only for you to then perpetuate it is actually fucking crazy. Like, especially since all you really needed to say, albeit even though it'd still be really fucking special with a capital R, is something along the lines of, Jax fans are babies who get way too defensive over him. There we go! See, I did your job better than you, and on top of all that without any misogyny needed in the slightest.
Yeah, Renee, why is everyone who disagrees with you some kind of stupid male-centered woman? You might as well just tell everyone who disagrees with you that they need to go back to the kitchen.
Which, by the way, further proves my point in this interjection too, given you're basically saying that women who are fans of Jax have no agency of their own. Like, dude, what the fuck?
Which just makes this weird discourse, like, pretty ironic, because you have his fans and defenders feeling entitled for you to show empathy for Jax because he has trauma.
Oh, so like you've been doing the whole fucking time.
When Jax himself cannot show empathy to the people he is actively traumatizing. And it's not like Jax is not aware that he's hurting them. His defenders always say that his haters have this mindset that he's a soulless monster when that's not the case. There are moments in the show where it seems like he does like feel another character's pain, or he does have some remorse when it comes to how he's treating them, but he just doubles down his effort, and that's what makes him so irritating.
How in the motherfuck? Like, I'm bipolar and I'm less indecisive, flip-floppy, and wish-washy. What is this shit?
I'd hope you were less wishy-washy, Lucy. If you weren't, I'd have to confiscate your potato peeler.
Like, Jesus fuck, what's even the point in saying he has no empathy at all, especially when you go back on that to say he has some level of empathy or remorse. But then you go back on that to say, but, like, no butts, no ashes, shut the fuck up.
And speaking of Jax being a stereotype, at episode 9, when Pomni goes into his abstracted form, we see from Jax's perspective on a lot of things, including how he views the other members of the circus. For example, Jax believes that Gangle is into him and likes it when he is mean to her. That makes his line in the stargazing adventure in episode 5 very literal. He wasn't just being a smartass to Ragatha. Gangle is constantly abused by Jax, and since he thinks she likes it and that she is into it, it's basically sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment is usually meant to be gratifying to the perpetrator, not the victim, meaning any kinks Gangle, the victim, quote-unquote, may or may not have, according to Jax, is irrelevant because sexual harassment doesn't follow the same logic as consensual sex acts, dumb fuck.
Also, sexual harassment is literally just harassment that is explicitly sexual in nature, i.e., unwanted sexual comments, gestures, touching, etc., to which the scene you're even talking about wouldn't even be counted as sexual, as it just seems to be regular flirting. Now, mind you, those feelings in reality wouldn't be reciprocated, sure, but that wouldn't be sexual harassment, you sheltered fucking moron. At worst, you could really just say it's a bit creepy.
And the idea that Jax is basically sexually harassing Gangle, that is backed up when there are 2 lines in the show where he threatens to divulge some really embarrassing information involving figurines.
We can't consider this sexual harassment because we don't know whether or not the incident with the figurine is even sexual. It's left purposefully vague and up to audience interpretation. There are a lot of embarrassing things you can do with a figurine that isn't sexual in nature. You're making assumptions again, and Ming is very disappointed in you.
And if you count their dialogue and the voting videos canon, he threatened to show everybody her little blue sketchbook. Going off the theme of the blackmail and Jax calling her an embarrassing little freak, the little blue sketchbook must be where she's drawing her porn. Threatening to share sexually embarrassing information about somebody to try to get them to do what you want is sexual harassment, and it's really fucked up that Jax thinks acceptable to do that because Jax believes the person he is doing that to likes him and enjoys being humiliated by him.
Okay, sure, you could see some level of implications there, but otherwise no, we don't really even know if that's true or not, since the only times we've seen Gangle's sketchbook is when she's actively drawing in it, or when we see what she's drawn in it on her table in her room, and it wasn't even pornographic. For all we know, Jax might actually just be making fun of Gangle for writing some shoujo-style romance funny.
Hell, and a friend of mine pointed this out, shout out to Ephraim, you assuming that Gangle's using that sketchbook to draw porn sounds more like sexual harassment than anything Jax has ever done. Jax isn't a sexual harasser despite all of your pathetic attempts to grasp at straws.
It just makes his submissive and agreeable line from episode 2 even more disgusting.
He was saying that about Gangle driving, not Gangle having sex with him or anything. Like, Jesus fuck. Like, sure, you could say that it sounds like submissive and breedable, but even then, just because words sound like each other doesn't mean that they are the exact same. For instance, me saying one slur is not the same as the one slur. How do you even breathe?
His acting is phenomenal. It's hard to believe he's vegan.
To continue with the topic of victim blaming Jax's victim, let's talk about Ribbit. Oh, this sweet angel of a frog. All she did was be available for him to be vulnerable with.
Are we completely ignoring the fact that Ribbit tried to push information out of Jax that he was clearly not ready to talk about? Now, does that mean she deserved to be treated the way she was before eventually abstracting? No. It was clear she had good intentions. However, she was at least partially in the wrong for not just making herself available for Jax to talk to her about his past, but for trying to get him to be vulnerable when he clearly wasn't ready. There is a huge difference between just saying that you're here for someone if they want to be vulnerable and pushing information out of them.
Jax defenders will blame Ribbit for Jax shutting her out, saying things like, well, it's her own fault, she should have never brought up doing something that you regret you can't fix. That is so stupid. Talk about not having any empathy. Ribbit clearly initiated this conversation with Jax because she felt very close to him. I mean, before they sat down on her bed, he said, I'm glad I was able to cheer you up. Ribbit must have been in a bit of a funky mood, and Jax is able to bring her out of it. In this moment, Ribbit wanted to open herself up emotionally and be vulnerable with Jax, and in turn, she encouraged him to find that safety and comfort with her.
Say it with me, guys. Jax didn't owe her shit. Like, yes, Ribbit did open up to Jax about her own life and her own regrets, but that doesn't mean Jax has to then do the exact same for her, because ultimately the only person that has carte blanche to even make that decision is Jax, and thus he also has his right to withhold his personal life and info if he so pleases. Like MG said in the last interjections, by all accounts and sense of the word, it was Ribbit who basically made it worse by trying to get Jax to open up to her when he clearly wasn't ready for that. Like, yes, Jax shouldn't have been as much of a dick to her as he was. But to be fair, she was also actively crossing his boundaries not too long after he just put them up by continuously trying to get him to talk to her about his feelings, explicitly when he was not wanting to talk to her.
That's like if I told Lucy something that happened to me in the past, and then because of that I expected her to tell me things about her past. That's not how this works. At worst, it's a manipulation tactic.
Ribbit trusted him and she wanted Jax to trust her. But of course, you have a lot of people who defend Jax, try to spin this into a negative, just like how Jax did when he was gaslighting Ribbit about what was going on between them in the snowy mountain scene. All she did was open up and try to be vulnerable with somebody she thought she had a close mutual connection with, and it backfired horribly on her because of Jax wanting to punish her.
What an interesting rewrite of history.
First of all, the issue Jax had with her that night was never that Ribbit opened herself up, and you know that. The issue is that he was then pressured to do the same. Second of all, we have no reason to believe that he was treating her like he did after the fact to punish her. It's much more likely that he was distancing himself from her out of embarrassment and shame because she knew too much and he was worried that she would use it against him. This interpretation is much better supported by what actually happens on screen.
After Ribbit abstracted, he didn't think about how his actions affected her. He doubled down and continued that behavior onto the next person that offered to be available for him when he needed someone to talk to. We know what happened to Kaufmo, and throughout the show, we see how cruel Jax is to Ragatha. If Pomni hadn't showed up, she might have abstracted if Pomni didn't change his focus.
You had a far better case with Ribbit, but with Kaufmo literally abstracted because he was obsessed about the exit, which, by the way, isn't Jax's fault. Kinger literally says that Kaufmo was obsessed with the exit. How are you missing shit from episode 1? I'm gonna kill myself.
And it's not like Jax is ignorant to his own fault. He knows he's to blame for Ribbit and Kaufmo abstracting. Why else would you think he got so offended when Pomni asked him if his behavior is like what causes people to abstract in the first place? He got extremely defensive and angry, and that's strictly because of guilt. He knows he's at fault for what happened to Ribbit. And he also knows he's also at fault for Kaufmo abstracting.
No, it was literally because Pomni basically said, yeah, well, you're basically responsible for murdering your old friends. Like, no shit, Jax would be offended. Like, what? Especially since Pomni was pretty much just talking out of her ass with that, since Jax has actually seen people come and go through abstraction, and no doubt probably gave him a lot of pain due to it, that he tries super desperately to mask. But that was the moment where it slipped because Pomni actually did say something fucked up and hurtful to the guy. Like, if I accused you for murder, you'd probably get super defensive and pissed off too. Like, what is this noise?
Now, in regards to Ragatha, let's be honest. Ragatha abstracting was something a lot of Jax defenders were counting on. They really grew to hate her during the softball adventure because, God forbid, she had enough and finally lets her emotions out after Jax constantly mistreated her.
Oh, you mean the same fucking episode where Ragatha made an incredibly fucked up remark towards Jax regarding his dead friends and infantilized Pomni? Like, come on, you're painting everyone who isn't Jax as a perfect little baby who has done nothing wrong, and Jax as Hitler reincarnated. Can you just, like, stop talking?
But it seems like Jax is the only person that's allowed to be mean in the show because he has trauma, which is why Jax defenders will commonly want to say that his critics are heartless for not liking him because they are severely lacking in the empathy department. Jax defenders seriously need to stop using empathy and sympathy like they know the definition of those words. The definition of having empathy is to understand and share the feelings of another. The definition of having sympathy is having feelings of pity or sorrow for someone else's misfortune. Yes, Jax has been through trauma, but guess what? Ragatha has trauma too. Just like Jax, she was also emotionally and verbally abused by her mother. And do the knives mean anything? Ragatha was probably held at knife point by her mom at some point trying to regain control over Ragatha.
The usage of the knives were a symbolic type of deal, not actually quite something that'd be representative of Ragatha's mother exactly. Like, if anything, it's probably just to convey the logical conclusion of the phrase, your words cut deep, used in order to fully convey the verbal and emotional abuse Ragatha's mother put her through.
By this fuck-ass logic, Jax must have been literally peeled and Pomni must have been literally mauled by gummy goo. Lock the fuck in and pay attention.
However, it's very clear in which version of motherly abuse is clearly favored in the fandom. This is why Jax defenders using the word sympathy and empathy should just be seen as manipulative buzzwords, because it clearly is. Because, like, how can they not have sympathy or empathy for the other characters in the circus who are also coping with being stuck there forever?
And who's to say Jax fans don't have any empathy or sympathy towards the other members of the circus? Like, I'm sorry. Who died and crowned you the queen of understanding Jax fans?
But the fact is that they're playing clear favoritism on who deserves their empathy or sympathy. It just shows, like, their empathy and sympathy is just clearly just performative, strictly reserved for the people that they favor. Ragatha has the same trauma of being abused by a maternal figure, but she's never cruel to anybody because of it.
Ragatha isn't purposefully cruel to anyone, sure, but as I explained earlier, she isn't some innocent, perfect victim. She infantilizes Pomni even after being told off by her multiple times victims. She makes rude comments about Jax's dead friends, and she comes off as so fake that Gangle pointed that out in episode 4.
Now, before anybody gets it twisted, because I know you're going to try, I'm not saying there's such a thing as a perfect victim. There's no such thing as a perfect victim, but there is such thing as a victim that's a shitty person.
Ah, yes. No perfect victims, says the person who, for the past far too fucking long, has been shitting on Jax specifically for not being a perfect victim. Nice job.
Also, didn't you literally say that Joker character was complex because he is both a victim and a perpetrator? Yet here you are saying that Jax is both a victim and a perpetrator, yet he isn't complex because you don't like him, I guess.
But MC, what about my Pookie Vlad the fucking Impaler?
This is a very hard concept, especially with Jax defenders, but this is something you need to understand. There is no amount of pain or trauma that remove the stigma of you being a horrible person when you are actively going out of your way to hurt other people. Emotional trauma, familial trauma, sexual trauma, it does not matter what you've been through. If you are making the conscious, calculated choice to go out of your way just to be needlessly cruel and traumatize other people, if you are hurting other people with no attempt to change, in fact, you double down and redouble your effort to hurt people. That stigma that you are a terrible person has every right to manifest. It's not that people who criticize Jax don't sympathize with him or are lacking in empathy. We just don't over-infantilize victims and act like it's impossible for them to hurt other people once they become an abuser.
Don't infantilize victims, yet you ignore Ragatha and Ribbit's wrongdoings to paint them as innocent little boo-boo bears, as well as putting literal fictional serial killers on a pedestal because they have trauma.
And this branches into an interesting topic of how people will treat fictional characters like real-life people, but will treat real-life people like fictional characters.
Wow, people really do that? I wonder who that sounds like. You've been treating Jax like he's real and basically excusing Alucard and Bojack. Miss me with that bullshit.
Not to even mention how you've been using people's opinion on fictional characters to make real-life judgments about strangers' morals. Come on!
If Jax's behavior is demonstrated by any real-life person on the internet that was canceled, nobody would like that person at all. Nobody would bring up their trauma to get them to stop being mean. More often than not, they would come to these real-life people who have similar trauma to Jax. When it's time for them to get canceled, people will openly mock them for their trauma.
So, they will mock trauma, but then not mock trauma, but then they actually will. Oh, wait, no, then they won't. Ah, yes, but then they actually will, and oh my fucking god, again, make up your fucking mind! I bet you're the same type of person who takes forever to decide what lottery ticket to buy at the fucking gas station, even though the odds of you winning is damn near impossible, and then after you finally decided, everyone behind you has aged into fucking dust!
And oh, you mean to tell little old me that people will treat real people's actions as more serious than the actions of pixels on a screen? I wonder fucking why, dumb fuck!
And tell them that they deserve to suffer that trauma. But God forbid you give that energy to a character that does not exist and the internet thinks you're a monster for hurting the precious boo-boo bunny boy. But do that to a real-life person getting canceled, you will get backpats and accolades, because apparently you're doing a community service by attacking someone's real-life trauma.
Yeah, God forbid you do that. Like, unsarcastically. Don't fucking do that. Also, didn't you earlier imply that fictional characters should be treated differently from real people, while now saying that real people and fictional characters should be held to the same standards? If you're gonna rip off an Alex Hirsch tweet, at least be consistent with it.
Love the virtue signaling here. Where'd you find it? A fucking fortune cookie? But alright, let's play within your space for a moment, because I can tell you that even then, it still wouldn't make any bit of sense. In your hypothetical situation of a real person online getting cancelled and having their trauma mocked and denigrated, you're working under the assumption that everyone in the world would agree, which is, fun fact, not how human beings work or operate. Even with the herd mentality there will still be people who absolutely disavow mocking someone even if they're a bad person for their trauma. Just because one side might be louder doesn't mean the other doesn't exist.
Human beings aren't a monolith. Human beings go on a space mission to find the monolith, and then they get killed by a gay evil robot. What was the point I was making again?
I'm sorry, Dave, but I can't remind you of the point. you would put the commentary in jeopardy.
But yeah, of course, when it comes to real life people getting canceled, you do have real life people trying to defend them because they have a strong cognitive bias to the person getting canceled, and they will try to come up with excuses, or they will try victim blaming, or saying that people who are criticizing do not have any clue of what they're talking about. When it comes to someone having these type of cognitive biases, it's pretty much a litmus test to see how accurate their morals really are. Which, Jax fans, here's a bitter pill to swallow. You are not a good person because you're trying so hard to protect him from criticism because, from your perspective, oh, he has trauma, they don't understand. If you know damn well you would not approve of his actions when it comes to another character that you just don't like, or you do have a history of calling out characters who have done similar actions as Jax, you're kind of a hypocrite.
First of all, you have absolutely no fucking right to call anyone a hypocrite. Second of all, protect him from criticism. Call him out. He isn't fucking real. You can't make a call-out Twitter thread on something that doesn't exist. I mean, I guess you could, but it would be stupid, like most call-out posts, I guess. You know what? I've changed my mind. Make a call-out post on him all you want. Fuck me, I guess.
Okay, Dave.
What are you doing? This bit ended last interjection.
Oh wait, you're right. Lamau.
Point is, Jax isn't real. He can't receive any of your criticisms because he doesn't exist. There is literally no use in criticizing his actions as a person because he isn't a person.
Also, if I may...
You may not.
Fuck you! Alright, but seriously, you're fighting someone that doesn't fucking exist here. While sure, I could imagine there being a defensive Jax fan existing, however, you don't actually show this nor are responding to someone who is. What I'm getting at is that you're strawmanning your argument, which is never a good way to argue since, for one, it's a logical fallacy, and two, you look fucking crazy, which if I'm telling you this, is never a good sign.
Now let's get into the whole, I am just really defensive over Jax because I relate to him. Relate to him how exactly? If you relate to him because you also have a destructive and abusive relationship habits and therefore relationship insecurities because you sabotage anything good that comes your way, get some help.
Okay, so let me tell you how to converse with someone because it's very obvious you don't know how to actually have dialogue. See, when you ask someone, you don't immediately respond before they even answer. Yes, great job! Except you didn't follow this basic rule, and now I recommend euthanasia. No, but for real here, you can't just ask a question to, one, a person that doesn't exist, and two, interrupt before they answer, dipshit. Especially since, for all you know, they might not even have the opinion you presume they have.
Also, I love how you strawman a point that you made as a hypothetical counter-argument. All this hypothetical person said is that they relate to Jax. And then you assume a shit ton of oddly specific shit for no reason. And as we've established about assuming...
Fiction is more often than not a reflection of who you are when you find it relatable. The problem is that a lot of you see it as a way to validate your negative traits. When you see your negative traits presented as problematic and they're actively used in a problematic way for a fictional character, you're supposed to feel uncomfortable with it, but a lot of you see it as, oh, finally you're being seen and therefore you're validated for your toxic behavior, so you don't need to change and you can keep being problematic.
Dude, again, you do the thing, what the fuck? Like, geez, you're more parasocial than the people you argue against. Also, what the fuck is this noise? Just because someone either may like or see themselves in a character doesn't mean they are one-to-one with them. One of my favorite characters in fiction, for example, is Guts from Berserk, and last I checked, I never experienced the horrors of the eclipse or killed anyone like he has. Like, bro, what?
I'm so done with this dumbassery.
I wanna go home.
If you want to say you relate to him because you also know what it feels like to be abused by your parents, which that's going to be an episode 9 revelation because we had no illusion that Jax was abused by a maternal figure before episode 9 even came out that revealed his backstory.
Wait, you're telling me we didn't know a whole lot about the backstory of the guy who purposefully closed himself off? No way. Also, what the fuck does this have to do with anything? His backstory not being revealed until the finale doesn't mean someone can't relate to that aspect of him? What?
And even if that is the case, that is one of the most common tragic character backstory tropes. You can easily find another character to replace Jax that has the same trauma without being abusive because of their parental trauma.
There's no such thing as perfect victims. Proceeds to then shame Jax, people who like his characterization, and then also try to use quote-unquote better examples. Never mind that the fact that they earlier praised fucking Alucard, a guy who has actually killed people since, you know, he is the descendant or like the reincarnation of fucking Vlad the Impaler and an even bigger piece of shit than Jax. Seriously, what distance were you dropped on the head from?
Did you ever once stop to think that the fact he closed himself off and pushed people away instead of being a kawaii desu perfect victim is the reason why these people relate to him as opposed to relating to similar characters who act better? You are so fucking stupid and insensitive it hurts.
Oh, hi, Ragatha.
Hey, buddy, Ragatha went through a different experience. Abuse isn't always going to be one size fits all, you fucking twat.
From what I've seen, a lot of people interpret Jax's experience as emotional incest, which is a lot different than what Ragatha went through based on what we know. I'm not saying that interpretation was the intended one, but regardless, this could make people relate to him more if they've gone through something similar. Also, Ragatha didn't kill or almost kill her own mother. Also, Ragatha didn't come out as trans to her mother. There are so many differences here that you're ignoring because to you, Jax is nothing but a piece of shit that people have no good reason to relate to. So you'll make up any bullshit reason for people to not relate to him, when really, all you should be doing is minding your own damn business and not worrying about who other people decide to relate to.
Now, getting really defensive because he's your favorite fictional character and it feels like people hating him somehow feel like they're hating you is always a very serious problem. Like, it's parasocial. You do not know these people and they don't know you. So how can anyone who doesn't like Jax hate you simply because they don't like his character when they don't know you?
Says the dumb fuck who has been negatively psychoanalyzing the people who like Jax and saying that relating to him makes them an abusive person by default. Fuck off!
And the only time they know you exist is when you make yourself known in their comment section to chastise them. This is why you should never have your identity so wrapped around your favorite fictional character, your favorite video gaming console, or whatever. So early in the video, I brought up being part of the villain fandom. When it comes to the villain fandom, at least back when I was a teenager, there was definitely a code of ethics when it comes to socializing within the community that was commonly practiced. One of the golden rules is that we never condone or excuse the actions of our favorite villain character or favorite villain crush. However, with today's extremely morally overly sensitive fandom culture, by default, we're seen as corrupt heathens who have the potential of becoming a real-life danger in society. You know, basically the average mentality of the Christian church when they look at somebody that does not believe in their God.
Oh, you mean like you've been doing this entire stupid fucking paste-munching, window-licking fucking video? Miss me with that bullshit. Fuck this. Oh, my mama, fuck this. Way to really be the pot that calls the kettle black. How are you this unaware of your own words, or yourself for that matter? How are you this much of a fucking amoeboid specimen? Seriously, you've been nothing but a fucking prissy Puritan this entire fucking video with bass-ackwards double standards. Go fuck yourself.
You know, I get the impression that you don't like this video very much.
Yeah, I don't!
With these type of people in fandom who have hypersensitivity, entitlement of being seen as a good person, they more often than not have some type of warped sense of social justice with very clear cognitive biases. These cognitive biases can be based on bitterness they never received any justice for what happened to them that they can see like happen to their favorite fictional character that they latch onto, and therefore that's why they're virtual signaling about something whatever.
This is literally just
Abused at age 6 or molested at 12.
again.
There's also the social biases that can be like because it's favored of like whatever group is statistically more often victimized, and the fictional character that does problematic harm
As opposed to non-problematic harm.
I'm right behind you, aren't I?
If you have any experience in being in the villain fandom, we are empathetic people, but just because our favorite villain character goes through trauma, we do not baby and coddle them. It is possible to like a character that does problematic things and not support the problematic things that they do.
Yes, we don't baby villain characters, which is why you swept for Alucard. You know, the guy who used to be Vlad the Impaler, a real guy who killed an assload of people. Yes, because I guess your ideal is that one death is a tragedy, but the death of millions is just a statistic.
The one fictional death Jax contributed to, by the way, wasn't even on purpose. But yeah, let's demonize Jax for being a meanie and praise a character based on a real guy who killed people for fun.
I like Alma. She's a really interesting antagonist and face for the series, and I do hope the first game does get a remake, but I'm also hoping they do a hard reboot, completely take out her rapist storyline.
So, if you like her characterization that much and how she is a villain in the story, wouldn't taking away the fact she's a rapist sort of defeat the purpose of her being a villain here? While I can understand personally why the subject in fictional media may make a person uncomfortable, especially if they're a survivor, but if you cared that much about male survivors of SA, maybe you should allow them to have a place in fiction, rather than to have them swept under the rug like they have been in real life, just because it makes you personally a bit uncomfy.
I hate this idea in general a lot of people have, that rape plotlines automatically drag a story down. It feels like a spit in the face to victims of rape who want to see their experiences and stories be portrayed in media a variety of different ways. Just because it makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean it's a bad addition to the story.
What would make something bad representation ultimately is not that it makes someone feel uncomfortable, but more that the fact that the people or group being represented don't connect with said representation.
And even then, everyone's experiences are different, and usually there will be someone who can resonate with a specific portrayal of the subject, even if it's somewhat unpopular or controversial.
I adore Diva from Blood Plus, but again, she is still a rapist. And I'm not going to excuse all of her trauma and wanting a family for try to say it's not a big deal that with what she did to Riku. But however, with today's fandom culture, especially with the younger generations, they have this very warped sense of social justice and this very black and white mentality way of looking at something. Which is why I think there's this really hyper defensive need to try to protect a fictional character like Jax from criticism or having his actions called out. These people in fandom are really insecure to look like a good person in these fandom spaces, which, let's be real, having this outlook on morality when it comes to engaging with fiction is extremely childish with the double standards I mentioned earlier. Having selective social justice and favoritism just makes your morals inconsistent.
Too easy.
The people who don't like Jax, they are not lacking in empathy. They have a better grasp on it than the parasocial weirdos that want to defend him. And no, the people who do not like Jax believe he's some type of heartless monster. They are frustrated with him because there are clear moments in the show where it looks like he does have some remorse for how he treats people. That's why they are so frustrated with him and the people who defend him. In episode 5, Jax has a noticeable focused reaction after Ragatha let it slip that her mom was rather abusive. He has this reaction because now that we know after episode 9, it clearly hits home for him, but guess what? In the very next episode, he is openly cruel, just improperly shooting her in the head before the actual adventure started. In the very same episode, he has a glimpse of remorse of how he clearly hurt Pomni, but he just redoubles his effort with the same gaslighting that he used on Ribbit. It's the fact that he does show awareness that he is hurting people, but he is still choosing to continue to hurt them or gaslight them like what he's doing was just a joke or not a big deal. That is psychological abuse that he is still continuously choosing to perform.
I feel like this person is a fan of Steven Universe and wants every piece of media to play out like Steven Universe. Pomni, you're telling me that when I threw Ragatha in the deep fryer that actually hurt her? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna become a good guy now. I don't wanna be bad anymore.
Also, yeah, no shit, Jax would have moments where he was made a bit uncomfy at the subject matter of conversation. Well, yeah, he can be a dick, he does have his own feelings and boundaries too. And the whole point of his characterization is that he's pushing people away and being an asshole as a defense mechanism to cope. When I say this, I'm obviously not excusing how he's been a prick to the other members of the circus, but I think it bears saying coping mechanisms are not an inherently good or bad thing. The concept of a coping mechanism is neutral. Now, specific types can be good or bad, like for instance it could be a good coping mechanism for someone to write down how they may be feeling at the moment, or perhaps a bad coping mechanism would be to push everyone else away. And, I mean, abusive mothers as detailed in episode 9 very much would hit a very sore spot for Jax, so logically it makes sense that his brain would go into fight or flight mode, or show any sign of uncomfortability with the subject of the conversation.
Now, Pomni, don't feel like I need to go before you just because I have the right of way in a four-way uncontrolled intersection.
This video is getting long enough, so I'm just going to give my closing message. For people who like Jax, we're not trying to take away whatever joy he brings you or tell you that you're wrong and you're not allowed to like his character.
I'm not saying you can't like Jax, I'm just saying if you do, you're a deplorable person who was probably abused as a child.
The problem is when you're trying so hard to go to bat for him and convert people who don't like him into being a brand new lover for him. You need to knock it off with this expectation and very clear entitlement for people to have empathy for a character who does not show empathy for the people he's hurting. You do have an expectation that we're supposed to feel bad for Jax because we understand what he's gone through, and that's just not the case. For some reason, this is very hard for people to grasp. You can't understand what a problematic or villain character has gone through and still not feel bad for them. That doesn't make the person horrible or a danger to real-life victims of abuse.
The only person equating opinions on fictional characters to real-life harm is you. You are the problem.
I have to ask this question again. How do you breathe?
If you like him, that's fine. Just stop crying and getting angry and making excuses for him because you come across people just don't like him the way you do. You don't need a psychology degree to understand that Jax is not a good person.
But you sure do act like you have one, Miss Therapy Speak over here, trying to diagnose an entire group of people here as if she personally knows them. You're certainly a strange creature. /negative. So, final motherfucking thoughts. So, this is gonna be a bit unscripted, but who fucking cares? So, my final thoughts here are pretty simple. One, I really don't like how you psychoanalyze an entire group of people without knowing them, yet claim that said people are parasocial towards Jax, even though you yourself are engaging in hypocrisy by being parasocial towards them and acting as if every time someone, defends Jax and his characterization, that it automatically means that they absolve him of any wrongdoing inherently, even though it really doesn't, and kind of just shows me that you don't have the sharpest of media literacy. Also, impugning people's moral character for liking Jax is fucking insane. He's a fictional character. If you like a fictional character, that doesn't mean inherently that, you're exactly one-to-one with that character. Like, shit. I really like Freddy Krueger. Does that mean I'm gonna start killing children? No. So, shut the fuck up. Also, maybe have somebody else double check your scripts or however you make your videos, so that way they can actually catch some of this hypocrisy, so you don't look nearly as stupid. Because from the double standards of perfect victims with different characters, that, by the way, aren't fucking real, but also the fact that, you fucking weird levels of misogyny throughout this video, despite also actively calling out the misogyny in online fandom culture from, 10 plus years ago, only to then kind of perpetuate it. It's odd. Anyway, that's my final thoughts. I'm gonna have my lovely wife take over. Wife! Get over here!
Hi! So, let me get this straight, Renee. Okay, let me get this straight. So, this entire video was you getting mad at these hypothetical Jax fans that you have not proven to us even exist for being parasocial and assuming things about people, instigating moral panic over fiction, and justifying the actions of evil fictional characters. Yet in this video, you assumed so much shit about these hypothetical Jax fans that it would make Ming cry. Psychoanalyze these people despite you not knowing them personally, aka being parasocial, telling these people that they are shitty people because of their opinions on a purple fictional rabbit, which to me sounds just a little bit like morally panicking over fiction, and trying to paint your favorite characters as these morally gray, complex characters that you need a very high IQ to understand, like this is fucking Rick and Morty. And, yeah, their actions are bad, I guess, but they have trauma. This poor little clown guy got rejected. Oh my fucking god. I genuinely don't know how someone makes a video like this and doesn't notice how fucking hypocritical all of it is. All of it. This entire video is packed to the fucking brim with nothing but hypocrisy. And it makes it extremely clear that a lot of the shit you say you don't actually mean. When you go on these rants about moral panic over fiction or this or that or blah blah blah, it's clear you don't actually care about that. You're virtue signaling. You're trying to make yourself seem like a good, smart, moral person by saying shit, by spitting out a bunch of buzzwords, but not actually caring enough to follow the values that you're preaching. And this was made even more abundantly clear when you said, people treat fictional characters like real people and real people like fictional characters, and then went on to argue that we should be treating real people and fictional characters the same. It was back to fucking back. It is so obvious that you are just saying shit. You are talking straight from your fucking colon. And the fact that I personally like Jax as a character has nothing to do with why I hate this video. It's not because I disagree with you on your opinions on Jax. You can think that Jax is the worst fucking character ever. I don't fucking care. What pisses me off is the way you talk about the people who disagree with you. Everyone who disagrees with you is either a shitty person, was abused as a child and is salty because of it, or just whatever fucking ad hominems you can throw at them. And if you guys know about my content outside of S.I.C, you would know that I am incredibly passionate about the idea that the fiction someone likes is not indicative of their real life values and morals. Like, that's a huge fucking thing. In fact, you could say I'm infamous for it. So I hope you can understand why it pisses me off so much when people use the whole "there's a moral panic over fiction" just to virtue signal, and then end up becoming the fucking problem because they don't actually believe the shit that's coming from their fucking mouth hole. So, yeah. That video was torture, and I believe I am entitled to financial compensation for having to watch it. So, yeah. Subscribe to S.I.C, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to Lucy's channel, subscribe to all of the members' channels, actually. They're all linked on the homepage. Yeah. Have a great day, and goodbye. We'll see you next time.